Hey, welcome here to the Montana Sportscast podcast. Bob Ritterod, Paul Panisco here as we get things rolling. Bobby, how are you?
I'm doing good. Good. It's warming up, almost up to 20. I just can't believe this nice weather we're having.
Yeah, geez, we're warmed up. We're at about 5, so we'll
Yeah.
take the 20. Thank you.
Yeah, at least it's warmer than it was last week at the football game, right?
That is the case. That is the case. Well, certainly want to welcome everybody here as we will start by wrapping up football. The Frontier Conference, as we know it, teams in the season itself, and our playoff team in Carroll College. The season is done. Carroll puts up a heck of a show at the national tournament as far as the playoffs go. But the Frontier Conference wrapped up and done here for this season, Bobby.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting when we talked a little bit about Arizona Christian coming into the conference, and so I'm going to say we had two teams in just because I can say that it's our show. We can say those kind of things, but it's unfortunate that they had to play the number 1 and number 2 teams in the nation. But yeah, I thought Carroll did a very good job. They lost 17-14 to Grandview, the number 2 team in the nation. Grandview is they will be playing Kaiser out of Florida, Paul, that upset Morningside.
Okay.
I got that score someplace, but I'm not sure where. I believe it was 29-28, I think, as Kaiser won that. The other semifinals, it's Northwestern against Indiana Wesleyan. So comes down to a number 2, a number 3, and number 5, and a number 12 team in the Final Four there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it always feels like we have a team that kind of bounces up from the teens and makes an appearance. But everything I had heard, going into it, people really were talking about, how hard of an opponent Carroll had, and they certainly were. And I thought Carroll went out and played an outstanding football game, and certainly had some chances to win that football game and move on. But alas, here we are. Everybody's done. Everybody's in the recruiting pattern, and we're getting ready for next season, Bobby.
Yeah, I just want to say congrats to Coach Purcell and the Saints on a fine showing, I thought, at the end there. So,
well, and of course the conference. It's amazing how at the end of the year, every year, the cards just get thrown in the air, and we're playing 52 card pickup. I mean, I can't imagine going into that final bye week. If you showed how the season was going to end in the final standings, I'm not sure many people would believe you the way that those last 4 games went down and how the season ended up. But that is certainly how the Frontier Conference historically kind of deals the cards.
Yeah, and hopefully next year we don't play each other quite as much. With Arizona Christian coming in, I think that's going to make things a lot better for the Frontier Conference. And like we've talked in the past, it'd be nice if we could pick up one more team so we get 2 automatic qualifiers. But I have not heard any rumors at this point.
No. The only rumor I have heard concerning schedule is, and again, it's not even remotely set in stone, or it might even just be just trash that I've heard, but it sounds like everybody will just play each other once. And then be responsible for a non-conference game or 2 beyond that. But we will see it might be a possibility of a non-conference Frontier opponent. So you might see a team twice, but one of them would be a conference game. The other one would not be a conference game because we know certainly how hard it is to get non-conference games at times. But it does look like conference-wise we'll only see everybody once. So that certainly will be a first.
Yeah, that'll be nice for sure. Well, let's move on to volleyball. You guys had the tournament up there, the district or the conference tournament. Rocky and Tech, I thought that they would both have a shot at getting in, and they did. Yep. Tech hosted. They lost there. Rocky will play tomorrow as they will take on Jamestown, the number 2 team in the nation, and in Sioux City, Iowa. And also in their pool, there's 3 teams in that pool. College of St. Mary out of Nebraska. Okay. They're rated number 15 in the nation. And Rocky was not rated. And in the game to get there, the match to get there, they beat number 18, Indiana Wesleyan, to advance to the finals there.
Good for them.
in Sioux City, Iowa. So they play Jamestown tomorrow and St. Mary on Thursday, and then I don't know how it goes from there. I believe that they put them in a bracket play. I believe after that, after the pool play.
Yeah,
scheduled. So
yeah, good for them. Tough draw in Jamestown. Holy moly! Jamestown has just been a juggernaut. They in Eastern Oregon this year. And Tech ran into a very good team out of Westmont, California, a team,
yeah,
we know an awful lot about from basketball. They're a perennial powerhouse, in all the years that the national tournament was played in Billings. Westmont was there every year, played deep into the tournament every year. They're a very good team out of the Western side of the states, and they came into Butte and just really put it together. They went 3 straight sets over Montana Tech. And they win in a tough environment to move on to that national tournament.
All right, let's move on to basketball, huh?
That works.
What do you think?
This is it is the longest season known to mankind.
Yes.
But we're already there, so be it. Conference season is here. Where are we looking? We gonna start with the women's side of things?
No, this is the men's.
Okay, we'll start with men's.
I believe.
Nope, that's women's. We got Tech at 2 and 4, so that's the women's side as of right now.
Yep, that's the women's.
And I probably could have read women's.
Let's start with women's.
All right. So when you look at that, what have you learned, or what do you expect coming in right now on the women's side?
It's hard to say because these teams they go out and they play tough teams in the preseason. Everybody has basically, and just history goes, Carroll, I know they were the preseason pick. The Fitzgerald girl out of Western's just tearing it up right now in preseason, and she should be. I mean, she's a tremendous player. She played for the Cats and dropped down, but I don't know, Paul. I just think it's going to be another dogfight. I think the key is, and I say this every year, and I'm going to keep saying it, is you just cannot lose a game at home.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
You have to win every game at home, and you got to steal 1 or 2 on the road. As you look at this conference this year, top to bottom, I don't know. I just, kind of looking at some of the transfers that these teams have gotten and the kids coming back, I think it's going to be interesting. And, and it all kicks off Thursday. So I just don't see, to me right now, there's no team that stands out to me. Let's put it that way. I don't know. Maybe I'll know more after this weekend.
Yeah, I think we'll certainly get a little balance. You can never tell as far as preseason because everybody has learned. We certainly have seen it where you mentioned it, where, teams go out and they're trying to play good ranked opponents. And you want to put yourself against very good teams because we know what kind of a meat grinder the Frontier Conference is. And I think it's going to be incredibly hard. So, I still think Carroll's the team to beat right now. I mean, you look at what she has done, that incredible program. You bring back Pickens and company. After their great run last year, they're going to be extremely tough. But I think Rocky is going to be tough. They're big. They have a great point, and their guards are going to be outstanding again. And as you mentioned, Western, you look at what Coach Woolley last year had a very good, solid team, but he had a short bench. He was only playing maybe 7 at times. He gets some depth there. They're going to be awfully good. And then, you look at the quality of coaches for the rest of the conference. It's going to be tough. And I think you hit it on it. You've got to win at home. And if you can get a split on the road, I think you're in good shape. And then, we have to deal with the teams that you're playing twice on the road. The scheduling is going to be a big issue. The teams that you have at home twice and the teams that you have on the road twice is going to play a big factor when this thing comes to a close.
Yeah, one big key when it comes down to the postseason, you got to have that 20 wins.
Yes.
If you don't have 20 wins, men's or women's, boy, it's tough to get into that into the final, into the national tournament, especially the way it is now. And you kind of look at this right now, the standings right now, Paul. Providence already with 6 wins and Western with 5.
Yeah.
That's, going into we have conference this weekend, and then I believe I think most of these teams are probably going to play 4 games anyway between
Yeah.
now and January when we start conference again.
Yep.
So there's a good chance that Providence and Western, they could have
Be halfway
10
there.
wins halfway there before we start our real conference play in January.
Yeah, you talk about a lot of these teams are going to go down to Arizona, partake in that tournament down there, and then there's going to be those non-conference games. There's going to be the exhibition games that are thrown in. They're going to get some playing time here before we get back into conference again in the new year, and that's a great point. So we'll see how that shakes out here, but the preseason standings are always just funny because I mean it always shakes out, and we some teams are already dealing with a little injury, but by the end of this season, that's where it becomes important to see if everybody is healthy. Like I say, I joked early, obviously, about how long the season is, but it is an incredibly long season, and to keep the athletes there mentally and physically by the time you get to tournament time is a huge deal, and certainly something that coaches and trainers and staffs have to really worry about as the season rolls on.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that more so, I think, in the women's side than the men's side is a depth issue. I really think that, that you made the comment, very good coaches in the Frontier Conference. And I think these coaches all realize that, like Woolley last year down at Western, you just can't get very far with 7 players.
No.
And I know Coach Moad up at Havre, he had that same scenario a couple of years ago, and you just can't do it. You just got to have 9, 10 kids that can go out there and play, because at the end of the year, boy, it's going to be a battle. It's the Frontier women's game is fast and physical is what I say.
Yeah. And I think it only continually evolves to be more so. I think we have seen such strides on the women's side of the Frontier. Every year, it's amazing to me how good the quality of play is. And, we're talking, it wasn't that long ago that you could take a 7 or an 8 off of every team's bench and they would have been a starter not long ago. And maybe, you're a superstar, but now, you have to have that deep bench. You have to be good every night. And not only to be good at the Frontier Conference level, but at a national level. We continually see these teams and these programs competing deep into playoff runs, and it just continually amazes me the level of coaches we have, and it's fun, boy. You look at how good these teams have been, and this year is the same. I look at locally with head coach Jeff Graham at Montana Tech. Certainly has Frontier Conference experience, played in the Frontier Conference, coached as an assistant coach in the Frontier. But what he is going to have to deal with now as a new head coach in the Frontier Conference, despite his success he has had, I can't imagine how nerve-wracking that has to be. Just to step in here and realize what you're getting into is an awfully tall task week in, week out.
Well, one thing about it, Paul, he's already bald, so he's not going to lose any hair. So he already looks like us. So
that's a good point. That's a good point. I'm excited for him, though. I guess to continue along that track. We see the level of coaches that continually come into this conference, and I think he'll be one that'll elevate it. He has done such a great job at Belt. You look at his success he has had. And I think, he has so many connections. I think he'll be a great recruiter and get the people into the program that are going to be necessary to win in the Frontier Conference.
All right, Paul, we got Doug Hashley here. Doug, how you doing?
Hey, fantastic. Thanks for having me on your show.
Hi, Doug.
Oh, how are you, kiddo?
We appreciate it, Doug. And, it's just something we're trying to get started to the Frontier and promote the conference a little bit. And we want to try to talk to all the ADs kind of between seasons here. And just a pleasure to have you on. And Paul's got one question for you right up front, so I'm going to let him fire away at you there.
Gosh.
So Doug, in an average month, how many times do you get asked when you're starting football?
How many times a month? More than fingers and toes that I have.
Yeah.
It's funny. We continually talk to the big one lately has been Arizona Christian.
Yeah.
Arizona Christian joining as a football member, and it's interesting to get your take on that with a Frontier Conference member and certainly one of our key members. But you'll certainly have a little bit of interaction with them as far as basketball goes,
Yep.
but you're kind of the outside looking in. Give us your take as an athletic director, as a obviously as a Frontier Conference guy. What does Arizona Christian bring to the plate, not only for football, but also for the rest of sports as we know it?
Well, it brings a ton to football, of course, but we are hoping that we produce a good product so we can have them become a full-time member. We're definitely going to get some games with them in basketball and volleyball. And we do now, and we go down to the Cactus Classic and things like that. But it's certainly going to help with the football for a few years. I would hope that they see the product the Frontier Conference has and would want to become a full-time member.
You are in kind of a unique position where, we talked to their AD a couple of weeks ago, and Arizona Christian is a school that has membership in several different conferences. And you obviously are in that same boat, between the Frontier Conference and the Cascade Conference. Talk about how those relationships work a little bit and kind of give us a clue on that, because obviously our base Frontier schools don't have to deal with that. We aren't worried about, dealing with the Cascade Conference for several different sports. Kind of give us walk us through that a little bit for those that are unfamiliar.
Well, obviously our core is the Frontier Conference. And we've added some sports, soccer, men's and women's wrestling, softball. The Cascade Conference has been amazing to us as an associated member, including us with those sports. We're definitely on the outside as far as travel goes. We're always heading west, especially in women's wrestling. There's not a whole lot of teams around here. And a good part of that, I guess we get to recruit better, eh?
There you go.
And so, men's wrestling, there's a few, with Northern, that helps.
And that's turned into a lovely, a really good rivalry, obviously, when you guys start dealing with it. That one it feels like waves are felt across the entire state waiting for that wrestling to happen.
I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to watch that. Our stands were full. Obviously, we're also a wrestling community. And back to the original question, we're a football community too, right?
Yeah.
But that crowd was full and Northern was well represented. The kids on both sides wrestled their butts off. It was just an event that was I took pictures. People are up, cheering. It was just a blast. And yeah, it's a great rivalry with two great coaches. They're both out of the Northern program, right? And
there you go.
Right.
Yeah, so it was just a blast. We host the Battle of the Rockies this weekend, Friday and Saturday. We have a tournament for the men and then 3 duels for the men. And then the next day we have women's tournament and then 3 duels in the afternoon. So we got quite a show going on Friday and Saturday with the Battle of the Rockies. They brought in some great teams. And then Thursday, of course, we host Northern in basketball. And once that's over, we turn it around and put out 4 mats and off we go.
Do you feel, obviously, the amount that you get a hard time about when you're starting football, do you feel that there's momentum moving for the rest of the Frontier Conference to possibly add wrestling? Because it feels like here over the last couple of years, it feels like there's a little more talk anyway than I had really heard in a while.
Well, that's good. That's more talk than I've had. We would love it.
Maybe
right?
I should talk to more people, though.
Yeah, I guess so. I keep asking when you guys are going to start it, right? And I don't get much of an answer back. So I don't know if that's anything they're looking at in the near future. I sure hope they do. The women's wrestling is a whole different animal. They put on a pretty good show themselves. And Scoring's different, but boy, it would be great to have a couple more schools, in the frontier with it, so the travel would be less.
Yeah.
Women's wrestling are traveling. They're going to the big tournaments east, and very few. We'll have Eastern Oregon here this weekend. We'll have a duel with them. So it'd be great if we could get it to added to a couple of schools, but I don't see that in the forecast.
It feels like you talk about, obviously you're in an epicenter for wrestling in Great Falls, Havre, and we're in, I'm in Butte. So,
Yeah.
and obviously Billings is the same. We're a wrestling state.
Yep, exactly.
And from the outside in, that feels like a pretty easy program to institute. And obviously now every AD other than yourself is throwing things at the screen, yelling at me. But as far as programs to get rolling, it does feel like wrestling, especially in the epicenters of wrestling, like here in Butte. If Montana Tech was to add wrestling, it feels like the amount of helping hands that they would have to get it started would be off the charts.
Oh, I think so too. And I just hope that I can recruit Steppen's daughter before Butte starts wrestling.
I kid you not. It is so funny because I was on that same page where when I heard the announcement of high school wrestling, that was the first person I thought of. I was like,
oh yeah,
Maddie is.
I hope they don't start it till we get at least a chance at it.
Doug, I got a quick question for you. Talking about wrestling, what would the cost be? Other than travel to start wrestling. I mean, it's not like football for sure.
No,
Is it
it'd be
that
minimal.
expensive?
No, I think nothing's minimal, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at, do you have a place for them to practice every day? I guess that's where you should go first.
Yeah.
We have a wrestling
facility
dedicated just to wrestling. And it's on campus, and it's gorgeous. We put 2 full mats in there. There's a women's locker room and a men's locker room and 4 coaches' offices. So I think you have to look at that first. Can you support it? Are you putting them in a den, or, you need to make sure that they have a place to go and place to study and the whole thing like we have over there. And as far as gear, though, I mean, come on, I don't know what a singlet costs, but I guess I should know. But singlets and gear for
shoes
the
and headgear.
Yeah, and then you got, we bought a mat. Women have a little different mat than men do.
Okay.
So we bought a mat, and that's same price as men's mat. So I don't think you're maybe start at $30,000, $40,000.
From there, talk about, obviously the idea of numbers that brings to campus. What does a roster look like for men's wrestling, and even where your women's numbers are at currently?
Well, they're both at 40.
Okay.
Yeah, we have, that's their goal each year is to recruit 40. And hopefully we get a few more, but obviously only 10 can wrestle at a time. Same as, volleyball and basketball we have here. And it adds a lot. That's 80 kids, right? I mean, that's a lot to your program. That's close to football.
All right. Well, now that the ADs, other than yourself, continue to throw stuff at the screen, we can move on from wrestling.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm in the company of 2 gentlemen with the Frontier Conference Distinguished Service Awards, and I just wanted to thank you guys. I saw them a while ago, and I just wanted to thank you guys personally for all the extra that you've done for Rocky and Butte, and I mean that's amazing. So I just wanted to thank you guys very much for what you've done to make the Frontier Conference great and getting better every day. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
man.
Thanks, Doug.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
If I was you, I would have buttered up with that. Maybe the football question.
I could not get it out. You kept talking. I could not get it out.
That's why I just sit here, Doug. I don't say much.
I might have trouble shutting up. I apologize.
That's all right. That's good.
No,
I'm
you know,
around,
Doug.
I'm around Keller enough. I guess I should know that.
What? Give us that. How does the day-to-day go with Steve Keller? Does he always have that "I'm mad at the world" look on his face 24/7?
Yeah, I got to go in and hug him every day. You know, he's great. And I do. I go in there. I give him a little hug. I do. I try to do that every day. As you both well know, one of the greatest guys in the whole world, and that's not even talking about coaching yet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's just got his heart in the right place for those kids. Obviously, without saying, he's an amazing, great coach and one of the greatest all time. But I'd rather talk about him as a person. I mean, he is quality through and through, right? And obviously a great coach. And I'm very, very, very fortunate to have him. And I'll tell you the truth, I do go in there every day and give him a love. And about an hour later, he's still grumpy. So.
Well, and that can be
just kidding.
You can really roll that over to Coach Himmelberger, and I think that goes for the rest of our conference. I think our coaches are as much of an impact on a personal level as they are on a coaching level. I think we are beyond lucky, and I hope parents and everybody else realize that is how good the quality of character we have in our coaches in the Frontier Conference is really impressive.
Isn't that something? I mean, you can go through everybody's coaching staff and they're all there for the same reason. Make sure that the students have the best experience they can on campus, get a degree. You know, the best thing that is for me is, you know, those kids hold up that diploma, right? That's one of the happiest days there is. And luckily they're able to play a sport they love along the way. But yeah, you're exactly correct. And again, look at the quality of coaches for X's and O's they are too, right?
Yeah. When you start amassing how many wins our coaches have, the national tournament games they have won, it gets really staggering when you really analyze it in that respect.
Yep. And you guys have done a great part for that. I mean, just the show you're doing now, and we're getting out the Frontier Conference. We all know how strong it is. I'm not sure other conferences know that we beat the crap out of each other, you know, 3 times in basketball. It's tough.
Yeah.
What's
not fair? It's not fair, Doug.
No.
It's tough. It is tough for the, you know, to get in 3 teams. You know, we should probably be getting in 3 or 4 teams.
And as the ADs and obviously as groups, I mean, you guys fight for a conference hard. You know, that idea of, we talk about basketball playing each other 3 times. Those discussions have to happen an awful lot of, how do we remedy this? You know, how do we change that and try and get away from that mold? But obviously it is not an easy task.
It's hard. It's hard to pick up non-conference games. You know, it's you're either traveling and that's an expense. You're bringing them in, you know, it's just an expense, right?
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate in the Frontier Conference. We're right here in the state, and we can get to each other, but we do beat each other up, and sometimes we lose a national placement because of that.
That has to be incredibly hard. You know, the idea of how to remedy that, and we sit here and complain about it, and we see it in action every year, but the remedies are awfully thin. And we do see, it does feel like we get a little more home and away with the tournaments we've seen through the years, almost kind of that volleyball mold.
Yeah.
Is it feel like there's more acceptance to that, to get teams from, you know, whether it's the California area or else Midwest or even Far East, to get some of them here if they're going to get 3 or 4 games in a long weekend?
Yeah, you know, well, and look what they could get in. They could get in 5, really.
Yeah.
You know, if you spent the time, you could get in all 5 of us, all 6 of us.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just gonna have to pick and choose. And if they could, usually they get in 3, right? They roll down, and Butte, Carroll, and us, or the other 3, whichever way it goes. But they try, believe me, our coaches try whatever they can to get those non-conference games in.
Think of it is, Doug, nobody wants to come up here and get beat.
See, you know, that's exactly right.
I mean,
you can't get them here because
No.
you're exactly right. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. We're that good.
Yeah, you know, and I think that after having that national women's tournament in Billings, I think we've seen a few of those teams that were at that tournament come back and play some non-conference games in the state after they saw the state of Montana, and their kids love playing in snow. I tried to buy everybody we played. I told them I'd give them all lift tickets at Red Lodge before we played them, but the coaches wouldn't go for that.
They wouldn't go for that? Man,
No.
it's just a student experience in itself.
Yeah. But you know, I think that's helped. But you know, honestly, I've had coaches tell me at those national tournaments, say, we're not going to come up here and get beat.
Yeah.
You know, and Paul and I were just talking about, you know, in basketball, you almost have to have 20 wins. You have to have 20 wins to even get a look at getting into the playoffs, the end. And you know, it's tough to do. It's tough to do, and you gotta go out and find teams and hunt and fish for those.
Yep, that's right. Or a coach that does and bring the team
Yep.
along.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're excited to host the Frontier Conference basketball tournament this year. That's going to be fun. I think we're right on to do that. I remember the last time, well, you guys know better than I did. I think I was at the Mac Center watching.
There you go. Yep.
10 years ago. I don't know. It's been a long time.
Yeah, West Mini and LC were still with us.
Yes, exactly.
So
that's who played in the
while.
championship, I think.
Yeah. And then those, boy, we had fun at those. You know, you started at the Civic Center, went to the MAC, and you had a great tournament experience for the kids and for the programs. And that was going to be my question. I mean, is that something as a community and as a campus that has to be exciting getting ready to host those?
Oh, man, it is. And, you know, I talked to the Four Seasons manager, Susan, a lot, and make sure we're all on the same page and what she's doing, what we need to do, and how do we make this a great student experience for all the teams, right? And I just hope, you know, I know it's a one and out deal. I just hope that they would stick around, a team would stick around to watch, right? And not go right home, but that's preference. But that's the tournament atmosphere, right? I mean, that's neutral court, and you know, I'm a big Sandy boy. I love tournaments, right? So I even got to go to Shelby to have a tournament, for goodness sake. That was a pretty big deal. So
I'm sorry, I'm way too close to the Haskett family. I can't say anything bad about Shelby.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that was a highlight for when I got to a tournament.
There you go. There you go.
Shelby and Cutbank.
Yeah. You talk about those high school tournaments. Steve and I actually played against each other in high school.
Where'd you play?
I was in Millstone.
You're Bronx, huh?
Yeah, I was anyway. Now I'm in Reed Point, so I'm an enemy now. I'm an enemy now. So, but you know, you talk about Steve. You know, we competed against each other, but I told somebody here probably a year ago. I said, you know, he's probably one of the best friends I have right now. You know, to sit down. I mean, we never go anywhere without talking to each other, and he's a good guy. You're lucky to have him, Doug.
So when you guys tried to guard him, obviously you didn't pass the ball.
No, it was 5-on-1.
You can't be Montana's top 5 leading scorers and think you're a great assist person. I mean, I'd love to see the scouting report when you played Custer.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, but he was awful kind of hard to stop too, if I remember right.
That's what he says.
Yeah.
I think he still has a little free throw contest with his kids. I don't think kids beat him yet.
Yeah, I doubt
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Well, Doug, I got one question I ask all these ADs. One final question before we let you go. I'm a parent, and I got a boy and a girl that twins, and they're both great athletes. And give me a sales pitch on coming to Providence.
Well, I think we've talked about it. You know, the sales pitch is our coaches and our teams, right? I mean, who are they going to be around the most is the coaches. But right now we have a really good relationship with academics. It's been fantastic. And so if they're interested in the programs that we have, When they come, they meet with those professors. They meet with the academic success counselors, financial aid. We take a very good care of them. I have them come into my office, and I'll just tell you my pitch. I had 4 kids that go through the frontier, right? Different schools.
Yep.
And each one of my kids had a special experience wherever they were. And that's what I tell the parents and I tell the kids, I'm just here to pass that forward. If my kids had that good of experience at those schools, I want to pass that forward to the parents. I want to tell the parents that I'm responsible for their safety. And I'm ultimately the one they would call, right? So they're going to be safe. They're going to have a great student experience. Our academics are off the chart. And we talked about our coaches, right? Our coaches are going to take care of them day in and day out. They're going to make sure they're in class. They're going to make sure their grades are up to par. They're going to make sure that homework's in. I mean, it's a big part of what I'm pushing is I met with the professors earlier this year. And I just said, here's my number. Kid's not in class, butt's not in the seat. Call me, call the coach. That's why they're here. Like I said earlier, I want them to see, hold up that diploma and be just happy and tickled pink. So we have a very good relationship with academics. Obviously, our athletics is fantastic and always near the top. So we got it going on here.
Good for you. Hey, and we
Yes.
appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Yes, thanks a lot,
that's
Doug.
good. Thank you guys for all the service you've given the Frontier. This is amazing too, and thanks for putting it out there. How great the Frontier Conference is, and thanks for the groundwork you did to get it here.
Well, and realize that obviously you're being as nice as you are. That's only going to mean you're on with us more, Doug.
Well, I would love that.
We'll change your
All
opinion
right.
quick.
All right.
Well, Paul's already asked you about football once, so I won't let him ask that question.
All right.
All right. Thanks a lot, Doug.
Thanks,
We
guys.
appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Doug. Have a
Yeah.
great day.
You also.
There we go. Again, our thanks to Doug Hashley, athletic director at the University of Providence, who has a few irons in the fire. I was going to give him a hard time because we always joke about the fact that it feels like Providence adds a sport about every turn of the moon. But they, the numbers are always good, and they continue to put out programs, and hats off to them.
Yeah, I was reading my emails there. Christian's having trouble logging in, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to get him on today or not, Paul. But Christian Oberquell from Northern, we're trying to get him on today as well and talk to him. But would have been kind of fun to talk about the 2 wrestling schools. It's kind of interesting what Doug talked about wrestling, and high school wrestling for girls is really taken off.
Yeah.
It's gone gangbusters, after in the second year, I guess it is, I believe. Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. The cost of it, like, I really don't see a lot of cost to start wrestling other than the travel. And, if we could get, 2 more schools, say, to jump on wrestling, then that would cut down some of that travel.
Agreed. And I think Doug hit the real key issue is space. I think when you're fighting for gym space, when you're fighting for floor space, for mats and basketball and everything else this time of year, some schools have that availability. Where I know, even again, speaking locally with Montana Tech, floor space right now is an issue and has been for years. So, certainly from our perspective in Butte, that is the big issue. And boy, he hit that right on the head out of the gate. And for some programs that wouldn't be hard, but for some that's going to be real hard to find time and space, I should say, more than anything.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I know Rocky's got a swimming pool that they could probably put the mats on, but don't know how well that would work.
We get some plywood, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, Paul, let's jump back to basketball. Do you have any more to add on the women's side?
No, I think it's just going to be murderer's row. It always is. I mean, I don't, the teams are so good. They're so well coached. It's going to come down to trying to win some games on the road, and whoever is able to do that the best is going to win this thing. It just, we're going to have several teams ranked. They're going to get beat up in the rankings because of playing, the opponents they do 3 times a year. It's going to be a really good season, and really high level basketball being played, I think, at the Frontier on the women's side.
All right, let's jump to the men's. Let's see if I got the right one up here.
Okay.
Maybe. Yep, I believe I do.
There you go.
I kind of look at those standings going into this weekend's first conference weekend. So, kind of the same thing here. It's just Western's gotten better every year, I think. I think he's gotten about as much out of those kids as he could get. I think he's, his 4th year, 3rd year?
I would lean towards 4th.
That's what I'm thinking too, and I told him last year, I says, you've done a great job down there at, building this thing back up, and he's starting to get some of his players. I think that they're going to be in there. And actually,
that 4 and 5 is not something you want to think is going to hold. They're going to be good.
Yeah. And I think the same thing goes here. You can't lose any games at home. I hate to sound repetitive, but, that's just kind of the way I feel. And I agree with the preseason pick. I think Carroll's probably got the upper hand on things. And I think a lot of that is just because they think they're going to win when they walk on the floor, and they know they got a chance to win. And I think there's some teams that maybe have a problem with that.
Yep.
I don't know, just a little bit of a mental issue there yet. Carroll's been so good. And, when you play against the same players for 8-9 years on that team, why I said, but it's like that everywhere. I mean, it seems like some of these kids have been playing on these teams for 6-7 years, which I guess they probably have with the COVID and the red shirt and all that. But no, I just think it's going to be tough again. We started with Northern up there. That's one team that, boy, talk about controlling the ball and controlling the tempo of the game. Sean Hughes is the master of that. It just amazes me how, I like doing the Rocky games. We've had some pretty fast pace up and down athletic kids here, and he just slows it down to a snail's pace, and I give him credit for that. It's hats off to him there. But once again, I think you're looking at the coaches in the Frontier Conference are just tremendous bunch of guys.
I agree. I think you have great leadership, and then again, I think the recruiting has gone up heftily. I mean, you look at some of the talent that has come out of this conference. You look at some of the talent that is here right now. There is a high level of basketball being played, and these guys, same thing. The coaches are out making sure that these teams are playing high quality opponents, teams that are ranked up there. Montana Tech just got back from Arizona. They played Arizona Christian, who obviously we've talked about excessively the last couple of months. But Arizona Christian, number 1 team in the country. Tech led that thing throughout the entirety of it, and Arizona Christian goes on a nice run at the end to beat them by 4. So Tech going down to Arizona Christian, playing them in their gym, and falling by 4. That's a pretty good statement, not only for Tech but for the conference. And we're going to see that Arizona Christian team quite a bit this season. So that'll be fun. I think, seeing some home and aways with them. And this conference season is going to be ugly. There is going to be a real high level of basketball played. And, if this is another one, if you're playing each other twice, I think we have 2 teams in the top 10 by the end of the year, but with 3, that might get hurt a little bit. But I think we're going to see some real deep runs, in my opinion, out of the men's side in the Frontier Conference this year.
And I think a lot of it's going to come down to the same old scenario as staying healthy.
Yep.
It's
because it's so physical. That's the other side. You brought it up on the women's. The men's game is so physical as well. And if you can stay healthy, especially in your starting 5, and if you go 7-8 deep, that's going to be huge.
Yeah. And I think something else that's key in the Frontier, you've got to have a good big guy.
Yep.
I just, and because of the physicality of it. I mean, if you don't have somebody that can take the punishment inside offensively and defensively, it's going to be a long season for you.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, this year is going to be fun. I mean, these are, you never want to miss Frontier games anyway, but for some reason, both men's and women's this year feels like we have teams that have real shots at going a long way in the playoffs. And these do feel like games. And this season is one you just don't want to stay away from. You're going to want to be in gyms this year for all the Frontier games.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make it Thursday.
Okay, there you go.
Let's talk a little bit. I hope so. Let's talk a little bit about the games coming up Thursday. Of course, everybody plays this one weekend in December, a conference play, and then we take December, the rest of the month off, and start the regular conference play, as I call it, in January. But both men's and women's. Let's start on the women's side. Northern is at Providence.
Okay.
On the women's side, boy, I'll tell you what, this is a coin flip, if you ask me.
Okay. I think, we talked about ball possession and with Coach Hughes, and Moe's another one. Coach Moe at MSU Northern does a tremendous job of pacing a game. I think Providence returns a lot on the women's side. I think they're, the big question mark was if they were going to get ladies back, that had eligibility. And from my understanding, they did. Providence was good last year, and I think they look to be awful good again this year.
Okay, we got Western at Carroll. I think this is probably the key matchup on the women's side.
Yes.
On Thursday for sure. I think this is, I'll tell you, whoever wins this game is going to have a leg up in the conference, I think.
Oh, and I think it's just going to be like a bar fight too. Not like a 5 p.m. on a Wednesday bar fight. I'm talking like a Sunday morning, 2:30. I mean, I think it's going to be ugly. I think those two teams, again, are so well coached, and everybody playing knows what's at stake. There's no pulled punches. It is going to be huge, and I think that is going to be the game. I think as far as the weekend goes, Carroll Western on the women's side is the game, period.
Yeah. And then Rocky at Tech Thursday.
I look forward to it. Chloe Thatcher comes home, gets to play here in the mining city again. Obviously, Butte loves her. Wes Keller and the squad comes in. Talking to the Montana Tech side, the first word that comes up is huge. Is Rocky is big. So I'm excited to see him. For Tech, head coach Jeff Graham. We talked about him a little bit in the pregame. I'm really excited for him. He's just I think he's a great guy. He's a great person. And that's another one we keep coming back to. I think he is a tremendous leader. Somebody that instills the right attitude, if you will. And I think he's a great fit for Montana Tech. But he's going to have his hands full. He brings back. Danny Urich decided to come back for her senior year, which is tremendous to see. And Tavia Rooney obviously is always going to be a force. They bring an incredible high tempo. This Montana Tech team does under Coach Graham. And I know, he is nervous, but he's ready. He has a good coaching
staff. He's always
staff.
Nervous.
Oh yeah. I just love him. He and Wes Keller, if you could bottle the energy out of the two coaches, you could sell some things, but I'm looking forward to it. And I know they are. And, Tech certainly has some building to do to compete in this conference, but they're going to get the defense buckled down, and they're going to make you earn it. So I'm excited for the program this Thursday.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Rocky's big, and Chloe. It's been a pleasure to watch her for
the last 2 decades.
I guess. Yeah, but
I think I graduated with Chloe.
No, I don't think so.
I'm kidding.
We're not going to go that far. Maybe her dad. How's that?
That works.
But no, she gets to go home. Might be the last. I don't know. Do we play it?
I don't remember
twice this year.
I haven't looked into who plays who twice, and that's a big deal. Obviously, we talked about it. So
yeah. But Chloe gets to go home and play there, and I think it's going to be Rocky should win it. I would say, but it's one of those Frontier Conference games.
That's it.
All right, the men's side.
Okay. Where are you
What do you
starting,
think
young
there?
man?
Well, let's
You brought up Carroll, and I agree. I think Carroll's going to be awful good, but I think the team to beat, and obviously I'm sitting in Butte, but I think the team
oh
to
yeah,
beat is
I
Adam
agree.
Hyatt and Montana Tech.
Yeah.
He preached to me even after we left Texas. He's like the team next year is better than this team that was in the national tournament, and that's all we've talked about. And I might start to be believing this team that he's got going right now, and I still don't think they're fully on the same page yet. When they get on the same page, they're awful good. And I think they showed that with this Arizona trip.
Yeah. Well, that's a great showing going up against Arizona Christian, as I said, the number one team in the nation. Uh, so I agree. Tech is probably the team to beat. I think Carroll's going to be tough to beat,
Yes.
but I think when it comes down to it, I think Tech will improve more during the year than what Carroll will.
Okay.
If you follow me, I just think there's a couple pieces there that Coach Hyatt brought in. I think that need to kind of learn their role probably, and
I think, to go along with that,
system.
I think Tech has to. Yeah, I think they have to improve, and I think that goes for everybody. But I think with the amount of like new pieces, because Tech graduated a lot, and they graduated 4 of their 5 starters, so they have a lot of new moving pieces that they need to get in place, and that will be important certainly down the line.
Yeah. How about that Northern team going to Providence? A couple exciting coaches there.
Yeah, I think and you couldn't get two. I mean, if you had the far ends of the rainbow, those guys, their coaching is still not that close. Coach Hughes wants this thing to be beyond a snail pace, and Coach Keller wants it to be excessive in the red and at 100 miles an hour plus. He'll tell you he's a defensive guy, but we all know better. Doesn't that one almost always feel like whoever has the tempo that they want is going to win that thing?
Oh, I think so. And I don't think Providence is as good early. They're another team I think is going to get a lot better as the season goes on.
A lot of new faces. Yep.
Yeah, I don't think they're as good. I think that they're one that's going to improve a bunch, I think.
Okay.
So Rocky at Tech, Rocky, I've seen him play a couple times against MSUB. They got some tremendous athletes on the team, and kind of the same thing. Got 3 new faces there that I think are going to have to kind of work in. I know they just got to stay healthy. That's the key. They've had a lot of trouble with some key players being injured in the past, and I think that's huge for them.
Yeah.
Western at Carroll. That's
going to be good.
That'll be good.
That's going to be a great.
It'll be a good test. Yeah. We're kind of going to see where everybody stands. I think after this weekend, it's going to be real interesting because on Saturday we got Providence coming to Rocky.
Okay.
I think that's going to be. I think on the men's side, that's going to be a good game, and I think on the women's side, that could be a great game.
Yeah, agreed.
Agreed. I think that there's just a lot of between these two teams in the last couple of years. They've battled right down to the end, and I just think there are a couple teams that got a lot of stuff coming back from last year, and I think that's going to be a good one.
Okay.
Tech at Western.
Indeed. That I think, like we talked about, I think the Western women are going to be awful good this year, and Fitzgerald just continues to roll. That's another one where Tech is going to try and dictate the pace of that thing as far as the women's game goes. The men's game, I mean, Tech Western on the men's side since Coach Larson has been in have all been good. They have just been absolute fights, and that one down to Dillon is going to be an awfully good basketball game. I don't think there's going to be any runaways on either side. I think it's going to be a last possession type of ball game. And that one I look forward to. That's going to be a good game on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Carroll goes to Northern on Saturday.
That's the women's side. Coach Mowat again on that kind of short notice. I think defensively he's as good as anybody. I think he is just so sound defensively. That will help him in a big way. It'll be interesting for them to see each other the first time and go from there. But that Carroll team they're just loaded. I think their women's team is just awfully good and have been. To be honest, the men's game is another one where good coaches and we'll see how the chess game works out. I think it really comes down to coaching in that one, and we'll see how things shake out after weekend one, because there's going to be an awful lot of adjustments and probably a lot of practices that are maybe lengthened here over the next couple of weeks after what happens here in week one.
Yeah, I think so. And on the side note, a lot of those Saturday games are afternoon games.
Yep, 2 and 4.
Yep. So that's something for the people that don't show up at the gym at 5:30 and expect to see much basketball.
Yeah, it's honestly, that's a great point.
And I'd love that, Paul. I think it's a great deal. I just get those kids home a little bit earlier.
Well, parents and everything else. Yeah, I mean, and I think it makes it a little bit easier for everybody to travel. And I think people are a little more willing to travel, knowing that, they can grab a bite to eat and they can get home and it's not, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. And I know here in Billings, or in Billings, not here in Billings, but in Billings, a lot of people talked about, well, I can't get to the high schools and stuff like that. But, you still see a lot of high school parents coming to the games and still making the high school games as well. So I just think it's a good deal. I really do. So
agreed. It's going to be a good weekend.
Basketball. So do I get to sit right behind you and yell in your ear if I come up Thursday?
Well, no, you don't.
Okay.
No, I'll make sure JT is sitting real close to you next to you.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to be good then. I'll have to be good. Unless I get Chunky to sit with me.
And good luck with that.
Well, Paul, it was kind of a fun day with Doug Ashley on there. I want to thank him again for joining us. And Christian Oberquell, we'll try to get the technical issues straightened out. We'll get him on here. Maybe we can get Matt on here next week. We'll see how things go and get he and Christian on here and try to get these ADs wrapped up. It's nice to talk to them. So
agreed.
With that, why don't you wrap us up for today?
All right. Well, I thank you for that, Bobby, and our thanks again to Doug Ashley from the University of Providence for joining us. For Bob Ritterod, I'm Paul Panisco. Thanks for joining us for the Montana Sportscast podcast. And until next time, take care.